Are you going to speak gand? Or is there going to be ras, that sweetness that comes through you? Gand. If you're going to talk filth now, chop karcha.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll see, sometimes with the elders, chopper just means be quiet.
Yeah.
If you have seen with the elders, sometimes they'll say, chop, chop. Have you experienced that?
Actually just, physically.
Because you're going to now do some gand.
Yeah.
Some dirt is going to come out your mouth. So they're like, chop. Na boli.
They've read the situation.
Yeah, they've read it.
Yeah.
Somebody that's wise, they've read it. They'll say, oh.
Yeah.
But then, if they're really wise, they'll say, is soch bhi man jo kad de. Experience that? They'll say, even take that thought out of your mind. And sometimes we need that little shake.
We do.
Just get that out of your head. And that's somebody's day, are they?
It is. And it's wisdom.
Anna? It is wisdom, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And sometimes it might be worse to stay silent.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's best to stay silent. This is an ability that has been made by that divine. How are you going to use this divine given ability to speak or remain silent? That's the question. Are you going to speak gand? Or is there going to be ras, that sweetness that comes through you? Welcome to the Japji Sahib podcast. In this episode, we'll be sharing the 33rd stanza that Guru Nanak Dev Ji have blessed us with. When we often look at these different lines and try and absorb that wisdom, we try and make sense of it, use our intellect to break things down. When I look at this stanza, it feels like it's the opposite that is required. It's taking in that wisdom and allowing us to go into a meditative state so that we can actually see and witness the play that Guru Nanak is revealing to us. So if we are able to go on to this journey of absorbing that wisdom and then not getting stuck in our head, instead being able to let go enough to actually start seeing the very wisdom that Guru Nanak is revealing. And to help us do that, today's guest we've got is Harpal Singh with us. So Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So we're just gonna, Harpal Singh, have a conversation about what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, and we'll get straight into it with the first line where Maharaj says, Akhan Jor, chupa neh jor. And we'll see this now, this pattern that Guru Nanak Badshah will be using, and using this word Jor. Jor can be literally translated to power. You look like someone that's got a bit of Jor in you. Yeah. Got a bit of strength there.
Yes. Plenty of training back in the day, yes.
Good stuff. So here, and then Maharaji is using the word ne or na, meaning that we don't have that power. So when we read this, there's times when we can really get entangled in our mind to what is Guru Nanak saying here. So first of all, some of the literal translations here, we've got Akhan. Akhan means to speak, to say, to express. Even we can loosely translate it too. So we've got Akhan Jor, and then the ne, so the meaning no or not, that is going to be used for both sides now. It's going to be used for the Akhan and it's going to be used for the chuppe. So what here is being said is that Akhan Jor, that we have no power to speak if we were to just read that out literally. We've expanded on the translation a little bit to give the Sangat a better understanding. So first of all, what I'm going to do is just read out the translation for the full line, which is, I have no power to determine the nature of how to speak and keep silent, because we've got Akhan and Chuppe. If we look, if we had access and we could look at the brain and how everything's done, and then our body, imagine everything's labeled.
Yep.
So then the sequence that we have to go through to be able to speak, most of us don't really know, do we?
No.
So to be able to do what we're doing right now, which is speak first, and a lot of this is happening all unconsciously.
Yep.
We're not conscious of it. And we don't even know, we wouldn't be able to break it down.
True.
So at some level, to be able to say something, there's a formation of thoughts and ideas,
Absolutely.
which are based on our then memory. So once, and then that goes through the different, the language centers in our brain.
Yep.
And then the language centers will choose based on our environment, which our senses are taking in, what language is then required to best articulate what needs to be said. So we're not aware of that process generally, are we? That all of that is happening. And then it also requires air to be passing through our voice box, then to be able to create a specific tone and sound, to be able to then deliver those ideas and thoughts, and then how the brain goes through then that process. And even in today's age, and a lot of us use ChatGPT and AI to help us understand things. When I pose this question to ChatGPT about what does it take for us to be able to speak, and the first thing before it broke down the process to be able to speak, it said to be able to speak is something very complex, very complex and fine for a human ability, which is something that is very unique. And we often take it for granted, don't we?
We do.
That we're just speaking, but then the process behind it is so vast. And what Guru Nanak's doing here is saying to us, who made that process?
Wow.
It cannot. I just think, I speak, I can speak, bolada. But if we really break that down, what that's saying is, if all of these things don't line up, any little thing will change in you then being able to actually vocalize something, to actually hear the sound. Any little change, it won't happen, or it will happen differently. Let me give an example. Imagine now, as I'm about to speak, I start to feel anxious.
Okay.
That is now going to tweak everything. It can tweak everything to the point where I can't speak.
Wow.
Where then now we're looking at Jor Na Jor. So what it takes then for me to be able to remain silent and keep silent, that's determined by the nature of that one's divine intelligence. But that one little component that's come into the mix now, which is anxiety, could stop me from speaking.
Very true.
That's how fine this is. But as we're speaking about it, it's not about the people thinking, is this a science lesson?
Absolutely.
No, it's Vaheguru's lesson.
Yeah.
Because, what else could it do? It could change the tone of our voice. There could be a shakiness in the voice. We could end up speaking a lot lower.
Yeah.
And it could be quite shaky. Yeah, because then there's a little churning in the stomach.
Very true. Very true.
But we often just speak.
Yeah.
And, to be in awe of that one, it could just be that you become conscious of the ability and what determines us for us to be able to speak. That's enough for us to sit there and go, wow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So then I'll say to you, has there ever been a time
Yeah.
when you have wanted to speak, you were supposed to speak, but then you wasn't able to speak?
Yeah, there has been.
And you're thinking, "Oh, not many. I generally just speak."
Yeah, I do generally. That's true. It's true, but it's quite intuitive, isn't it? It's like as if it's like you say, a natural process. But yes, very complex. I agree. Actually, it is very complex. There's things that are going on underneath that are probably beyond us to even know.
So you don't know then what we call as the individual, or what we call as the ego.
Yeah.
The ego is just a social construct. It actually doesn't, there's no such thing. It doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
It's constructed.
Yeah.
And it's something we've formed in our head.
Absolutely.
So for example, you might call me Baljeet Singh, the guy that talks about Gurbani, right? I take that from how I'm perceived socially, and I play that role.
Yeah.
And I start to think, ooh, I'm that.
I'm that, yeah.
I am that.
Mm.
But you know that I am that, what I think then I am.
Yeah.
How much role has that played in the making and the nature of being able to speak or remain silent? Zero. So then this makes you just sit back and think, there's no what I think I am, this big person.
Yeah.
Imagine if I had to go in and press all the buttons.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to speak. And then you think, oh my God, this is going to take a long time. Just give me a moment, Harpal. I just have to press the button to start forming the thoughts and ideas, to go in there, beep. And then next thing, okay, now I need to go into my language centers. Okay, some Punjabis in there, I sometimes pretend to speak Hindi, awful at it, but we've all done it, when you're in a taxi in some random country and they can only speak Hindi, and you give it a shot, don't you?
Absolutely.
So yeah, and there's some terrible Hindi in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
And my Punjabi is probably better than English, but there's some level of English sat in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So the language center, I don't have to go and activate them then. Hello, English.
No.
Deet. Imagine if you had to do that every time.
Yeah. That would be very difficult. Very difficult.
And so then you think, okay, oh God, you know what? These the vocal cords, this voice box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to require some air, all right, for it to work. But it can't work until, the language centers aren't processing my ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think, okay, I come into they.
Yeah.
Beep. Press the button over there. Now I've got the vocal box activated as well.
Absolutely.
We don't have to do any of that.
No. It's automatic, isn't it?
That's called Vaheguru.
Beautiful.
That's called Hukam. Yeah. Hukam, if we can just get this out of our head, that Hukam means preordained, we could be liberated. We could have like you always say, we said yesterday, wow, that could give you Brahm Gyan.
Yes.
That could give you self-realization.
Absolutely.
This is enough for us to have self-realization. We just sat there and went, Akhan Jor, chup hai, nahi Jor. Something inside of you will say, wow. Because every time you've gone to speak, but you ended up staying silent, it's because in that complex system and sequence of what it takes to stay silent, to remain silent, all of that added up.
Yeah.
And you wasn't able to speak. Because then you tapped into that hukum, to that law.
Yeah.
And even though you're trying and you're going,
it's not coming
just
out.
for those that are listening, I was making some, facial expressions.
Absolutely.
Where you're attempting to speak, but nothing's coming out.
Nothing's coming out, yeah. Very true.
It's quite humbling, isn't it?
Very humbling, I think, actually.
Just on this note, it's not directly connected to what we're trying to experience here through this body, but often I get a question. So, and that question is, when something happens, when I'm around this certain type of person, what's better for me to do? Do I stay quiet or do I speak? Yeah. And people want to know. They want to know. They just want to be told, and they want it simplified, and they want it to be black and white. So tell me, what should I do with when this person is like this? It's best that, and then sometimes they're almost not even asking you a question, and they're saying, it's best to stay quiet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. There's so many things. Oh, and you know what I love as a speaker? So if you're on stage, I can't hear myself the way the Sangat can hear us, or the congregation or the audience can hear us, because they have their own speakers to them. I can't hear what they can hear. So then we require something called, and singers as well, we require something called a monitor feedback speaker, so I can hear myself.
Right.
So the way Vaheguru has designed us, like, this just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, tum chatur siyane, like, wow. Like, I'm a murak. I'm an idiot. There's no way this so-called whoever I think I am, this ego, would have figured this out.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm a murak, tum chatur siyane, but you are so wise and knowing. Just your intelligence is amazing.
Yep.
So the way, when we are able to speak, there's a system where it's called a feedback system. So we get to hear our sound, what's being said.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, my voice, the way I hear it isn't the way you hear it. And you only know that when you watch a video back of yourself. How many times have people, unfortunately, cringed?
Yeah.
And they thought, oh my, is that how I sound? Have you ever? Yeah. And people, I remember when I first started doing talks.
Yeah.
And when you've never heard yourself back.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
Because the way our feedback speaker is different to how you hear me. So, but Vaheguru has created this feedback within us so that we can constantly adjust that tone and pitch in how it's required for the people that are listening.
That's beautiful.
So if I need to then, and how do I do that? Through my senses of intuitively taking in people's expressions, faces, and everything. As I'm doing that, then I can lower my tone. As I'm looking at, you're feeling more calm, and you're actually you don't require a higher pitch at the moment. Need to help you to get into a more calm, meditative state.
Right.
But my feedback from my senses then to the voice I can hear within myself allows me then to go higher or lower.
Right.
Yeah. But Vaheguru's figured all this out.
Wow.
And at our core, we are that very intelligence.
Absolutely.
If you can just sit back and allow this to put you in a state of awe of this intelligence of how things are working. So that feedback system for us to be able to it's telling our brain, "Ooh, too loud, too loud."
Yeah.
And that depends on then how intuitive you are.
Right.
Your brain's being told,
Yeah.
but are you going to listen to it?
Mm.
And sometimes we have to be told by someone else, like, Harpal,
Yeah.
come on. Thoda ja-
Yeah.
Come on.
Calm down. Yeah.
Bring it down.
Bring it down.
It's not the vibe,
No.
you know. Someone that damn, yeah.
Damn, yeah. Absolutely.
You know, oh, we've just woke up. Come on.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to have, but the system's built within. Vaheguru's trying to help us all the time. All the time, Vaheguru's trying to help us. That's how Vaheguru's compassion.
Very good. Definitely.
So when Maharaj said, Taul Dharam Daya Ka Poot, Dharam, in essence, even though the word Dharam itself, I think, by Ghan Singh Nabha, has given it something like 12 to 13 different meanings, potential meanings.
Okay.
I would say one of the main crux of the word Dharam is the way something works,
Right.
the nature of something.
Okay.
The nature of how our system works comes, it's there.
Very
It's
good.
built from the
Beautiful.
foundations of compassion.
Absolutely.
So
That's
the
beautiful.
feedback speaker is telling the brain,
Mhm.
okay, tone it down, a bit higher. Isn't this amazing?
Absolutely amazing. Goes to show that compassion is at our core naturally.
Mm.
You know, if we let that nature out, though,
Yeah.
that is at our core.
And I always say that I think as a community, and I'm referring to here the Sikh community, I'm not sure about how it is within other religions and other faiths and how much work is done on that.
Yeah.
But I would say within our community, we've got a lot of, we're very action based as well,
Definitely.
where service is concerned.
True.
But sometimes these actions can also just become very just mechanical.
Yeah.
So I would say what we could do a bit more of is how to access more of that compassion, how to unveil it. Because we went to a talk together yesterday and we spoke about this, that we know what we need,
Yeah.
but how do you get to it? And I think we need to do more work on how do we get to it.
Yeah. How to make it practical.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I would say the answer to, do I stay quiet or do I speak? It's a very complex question.
Yeah.
Because it requires for us to be using as much as we can in that moment to read the facial expressions, taken into consideration how much evidence you have already gained from experience of the person's patterns and more likely outcomes. You have to consider that. You have to consider this moment. You have to consider this moment of their emotion, this moment of their facial expressions, everything, the energy. It's this whole intuitiveness in that moment. And then to allow us to fall into that flow of all of this information and then allow that information, that intuitive information that you've gathered, loads of different components to, in this moment, is it to speak or not? We often make a mess because we've not taken a breath to read the situation enough. And we're so stuck in ourselves. I'm gonna say this. Or it's not taking in the whole picture as much as we can. We can't take in everything, but as much as we are aware of in this moment. And then allow the intuitiveness to tell you in that moment, is it better silent here? And when everything then falls into place according to Vaheguru's complex system, then you will stay silent. So the answer is, no, it's not necessarily just always silent with that certain situation or person. It's always just, no, make sure you always say something with that certain person and situation.
Yep.
But sometimes it might be, chuppe changa Nanak.
Yep.
Okay, this, I'm going to end up saying some filth here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Maharaj says, na ven nave mohe gand. I was going to say something outside of your naam, outside of remaining in your praise, remaining within your gun, remaining, because nave, there, one of God's names is Daya. If I was going to lose my Daya in this situation, if I was going to lose my compassion in this moment, then silence is better.
Yep.
Because even though that's the complex situation or complex system, is the word I'm looking for, how Vaheguru's nature works to be able to speak or not to speak, but then let's go deeper in that.
Okay.
If we do have an ability to speak, how do we want to use that ability?
True. You want to use it for pala, for the benefit. And if that means staying quiet, you stay quiet. But if it's for the greater good, you speak.
And not void of those qualities.
Yep.
Not void of those qualities of compassion.
Yep.
And contentment. Because there could be this greed behind why I'm going to speak now.
True.
I could say to you, support our organization.
Yeah.
And really, I don't care whether you use the services or not.
Or not, yeah.
All I want is your money.
Is your money, yeah. Absolutely. So it's the intention behind it as well. Yeah.
So I'm there. I was going to be void of then your naam.
Yeah.
Because one of your names is contentment.
Yeah. Beautiful.
No?
Absolutely.
Because that's where Maharaj says, Vadda data, til na tamaye. He doesn't even have a little til worth of even a little sesame seeds worth or an iota of what I want back in return. Like, that's not the purpose.
No.
So a better way would be we're here to serve.
Absolutely.
But it does take funds, for example, to continue doing this work.
Yep.
But my drive is to provide this service. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But if it was going to come from the greed place, then Maharaj says, if you're going to talk filth now, chop karcha.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see, sometimes with the elders, choppa just means be quiet.
Yeah.
If you have seen with the elders, sometimes they'll say, chop. Have you experienced that?
Actually just, physically.
Because you're going to now do some gand.
Yeah.
Some dirt is going to come out your mouth. So they're like, chop. Na boli.
They've read the situation.
Yeah, they've read it.
Yeah.
Somebody that's wise, they've read it. They'll say, oh.
Yeah.
But then, if they're really wise, they'll say, is soch bhi man jo kad de. Experience that. They'll say, even take that thought out of your mind.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we need that little shake.
We do.
Yeah.
Takes a level of knowing though, doesn't it, as well?
And it
takes a knowing.
Kad de man jo.
Absolutely.
Get that out of your head.
Out your head.
Yeah. And that's somebody's day, are they?
It is. And it's wisdom.
Anna? It is wisdom, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it might be worse to stay silent.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's best to stay silent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is an ability that has been made by that divine. But how are we going to use it is the question. How are you going to be able to use? How are you going to use this divine given ability to speak
Mm.
or remain silent? That's the question. Are you going to speak gand,
Mm.
or is there going to be ras, that sweetness that comes through you?
Absolutely. It's got to come through prem, Hana.
Yeah.
Yep. And pala.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I used to love this shabad. We could just take a moment to feel it. Mitha Bolada Ji. If we aren't stuck in that survival instinct of where that anger comes from, or where that jealousy comes from, where that comparison comes from, if we just take a moment, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Who are you going to find inside of you? Mit Bolada Ji. You're going to find something that is very sweet speaking. It's in you already.
Absolutely.
Har sajjan Swami Mura. And the mind is saying that my true companion, very sweet. Because he speaks in compassion. Always wants my benefit. Wanting somebody's benefit means I want you to be closer to your light.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That is absolutely stunning. We need that. We need more of that in the Panth and in humanity generally.
You know how beautiful this is, what Guru Arjan Dev Ji says. Yep. He says, you know what I did? You can put it into a story. Let's put it into a story. Guru Arjan Dev Ji says, I'm going to check you out. I'm going to see if you ever turn bitter.
Okay.
He says, I waited. Guess what? Sammal thakki ja, got tired. Because oh, kade na bole kauda. He just doesn't do it.
No.
Just does not ever speak harshly or bitter. Like, what? I just keep waiting. Waiting. And imagine if we became that.
Yeah.
So you were saying before we could do with more of this.
Yes. Yeah. Just saying we need more humility. We need more sweetness in our voice. Good intentions, pala, for humanity, for those in need, for ourselves, for our family members, for our immediate.
You know what just came to my mind? The example of when Guru Amardas Ji was sat on the takht, was sat on the throne, and Guru Angad Dev Ji's son comes along by Datu Ji, and just raged, just could not accept the fact that this is where the light is.
Yeah.
So what really is this? How Sammar Thakki Ji, oh, kade na bole kauda? Never come from a better place. Never.
Yeah.
This was then that moment when Guru Angad Dev Ji's son comes in to the court of Guru Amardas Ji and is just raged with this burning jealousy. Why is he sat on that seat? Not realizing it's not about this. You can sit on the seat.
Yeah.
But you're never going to have that light.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that rage, he runs over. What is this? Oh, kade na bole, never speaks hard. Runs and kicks Guru Amardas Ji, who at that time is anything between about 75 years old and maybe even a little bit older. 75 years old. And Guru Amardas Ji actually fell from the seat.
Right.
The Guru here, you know, and what Guru Amardas Ji did here was, we're waiting. Okay, he's going to switch now. He can't still be sweet.
Yeah.
Guru Amardas Ji grabs their feet. By Datu Ji. By Datu Ji's Guru Angad Dev Ji grabs their feet.
Vaheguru.
They said, Bakhsh do. Forgive me. Sat lucky. You must have hurt you. And you know what? This wasn't an act. Because Guru Amardas Ji always practices truth, sat.
Absolutely.
So they were being truthful. Satya, mere jede aha hun mera sareer. It's true that my body at the moment, this skin, this everything of mine has become so hard. Yeah, over age. And look at your feet, so soft. it must have hurt you.
Amazing.
It's not an act.
No.
The act, that was the truth.
Yep.
The sat ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗੀ.
Yep.
Have you hurt yourself? ਇੰਨੇ ਕੋਮਲ ਪੈਰ. Look how delicate they are. ਠੀਕ ਹੈ? You okay? ਹੁਣ ਸੰਭਲ ਥੱਕੀ ਜੀ. ਉਹ ਕਦੇ ਨਾ ਬੋਲੇ ਕੌੜਾ. I'm looking, nothing, no bitterness at all. Why not? Kauda bol na janne. He doesn't know how to. He doesn't know how to.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. It's not even part of him.
He doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who is that? Puran Bhagavan. Somebody that's perfect. Somebody that's complete.
Yeah.
Guru Amardas Ji was complete.
Complete.
Augan ko na chitare. I'm not going to attack your augan, your bad points. All I'm thinking is, bechara fas gaya. Home mein fas gaya. He's got stuck. He's got stuck in his ego. You know. How can we get him out of that?
Yeah.
How can we get him out of that? And sometimes it took the sword to say, okay, you're just going to keep growing this ego. You're going to keep growing this ego. So then Guru Gobind Singh Ji took the sword.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, sweet speech doesn't mean the way I say something. Because sometimes it could be a bit, it might not come out perfect, but it's where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Anna? That's why the Guru says that, you know, Jin pat andar bahar guddarte pale sansar. It's those that have got that true silk inside, but outwardly might come out a bit rough. But have you got the ability to really listen to someone where it's coming from? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
That's when we say, are you really listening? Don't get so caught up on somebody's words.
Yep.
Where did they say it from?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there could be a deep bala involved in there for you, even though there might be bitter words to you externally, but they might be thinking in a good way. And they'll be revealing you to you. It's like a reflection, isn't it? Shisha nahi hunda hai. You're being revealed in reality. So that's what I make of this particular pankti. And that's important. We need to be shown for who we are. But from there, though, from that compassion. Because then hopefully you reflect and realize, okay, I've got work to do. I've got homework to do.
And you know what?
We should run towards the truth.
Yeah. And he was very fortunate, Bhai Datu Ji was. Because Guru Amardas Ji, and I'll tell you what I mean by how he was fortunate. That time Guru Amardas Ji then left Goindwal Sahib and said, Bhai Datu Ji, tusi beh jo koi nahi. And Bhai Datu Ji was unable to handle the Sangat.
Okay.
And he actually became mentally quite unstable.
Oh, wow.
And then it was their mother, Mata Kiwi Ji, that Gurbani says, Balwand Kiwi, Nek Jan, Jis Bahuti Chaupatrali, who was the shadowing leaf. So noble and gave that coolness to others. It was Mata Kiwi Ji then that said to her son, wake up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not you, and that's okay. You know, your father's light is in Guru Amardas Ji. And you cannot handle this. And for you to become stable again, you will have to go and fall at his feet.
Vaheguru.
That's a mother telling her son.
Yeah.
That's where the truth is now. And from her compassion, saying, son, of course, I want you to get better.
Yeah.
But you have to step out of your ego here and we're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go, Tim.
Mm.
So let's go on the journey, and then we'll keep the rest a bit lighter now.
Yep.
So it's in the same sequence now where all of this is. So then it's Jor Na Mangan, Dein Na Jor. This is a beautiful one that
Anji.
I have no power to determine the nature of how to beg and give.
And give, yeah.
Okay, somebody might read this and say, what?
Mm.
It takes the complex system to all fall into place for you to be able to even request and ask for something from someone. It's not easy, is it?
It's not easy.
It's not as simple as when somebody will say, Tu mangala.
Yeah.
Just go and ask them for something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you think, nah, I'm all right.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when this is going back to around 2012, maybe early 2013. So I was working at the time as a heating engineer, as a gas engineer, but I was so engrossed and I was so just couldn't see anything outside of Gurbani and the Guru's history and itihas and their stories. No matter where I would go, that's all I would be sharing with everybody. And I remember somebody saying to me at the time, saying, look, there's this guy that is doing this now full time. He's obviously managed to set up some form of system.
Yep.
It would be great if we could all just support you to do this full time, but it seems like there's somebody that has set a similar system up. So why don't you ask him? They're talking about Jagraj Singh.
Okay, Jagraj Singh, okay.
And because I started doing talks, I would go off and do kids camps. I would neglect work whenever somebody would request for me to come. Because I was self-employed. If I went along and did the talk somewhere, and sometimes it would be for 2 days, sometimes it would be, a few 100 miles away, and then obviously the business is just getting neglected. I was like, forget it, we'll sell the house, we'll do what we need to do. Somebody's like, why don't you just ask your garage? I didn't know who he was, and I was in my head then I thought, nah. Because it takes all the pieces to come together to be able to to ask for something. It's a very humbling process that Vaheguru has made.
Definitely. Absolutely. It's easy to ask when we need something in desperation, or it seems even then though it can be difficult in some ways because of the ego and our home.
That's what I mean. It doesn't matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
It takes all the components to fall into place for whatever that is.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of humility required as well when it's a true request, not a demand.
No.
Not a demand. That's not the path. Nanak hukam na challe, naal khasam challe ardas. I said it's not about order.
Yeah.
It's about how to do an ardas.
Yeah.
How to request. Yeah. So that was my own experience. I've had many of those experiences. Sometimes it could be simple.
Yeah.
Just need to ask someone at home.
Yeah.
Just to go and get something for you. But just something or another sometimes just gets in the way.
Right.
Not everything's fallen into place.
Yeah.
You're not able to do it. And then it comes the same to dein, to give.
Yeah. Would you say it's easier to give though?
I would say,
as opposed to ask for something?
I would say it depends on the person. I think it's very unique, and I think it will change even throughout your life. Some people have more of a set personality throughout their life.
Yeah.
Some of us go through different experiences in life, and then it will then change. And at times, some people's nature is just naturally more in line with what it takes to give, whatever the system is that Vaheguru has made, that for everything to fall into place for us to give. For some people, that will be more on tap.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they will just be able to do that. But something might happen in their life.
Yeah.
Something might shift, something might change.
True.
And they're not able to do it as freely anymore. Anything could happen. They could get stuck in their head. They get overcritical. They start over analyzing everything. Oh, but what's this person going to use it for? Say if I do this here, say if I give this here. And you could get so stuck in your head and you can almost convince yourself there is nothing righteous to give for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't know when that's going to happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You could be freely giving to somebody. For example, they could take a very simple example. Like there was this, Gyani Pindrapal Singh would tell the story of how there was this Raja, this king who would blindfold himself.
Yeah.
And all the people, they would go and get random people into his palace, and they would all sit on the floor, and his guards would help him to navigate and to walk, and he would give them the food, but always kept himself blindfolded. And they said, why? Somebody said, why? Because I don't ever want to recognize myself as the data, as the giver to these individuals. If I recognize them, I might say, I gave them that. And then if you get into that state, you might not be able to give again.
Vaheguru. That's actually quite amazing, actually. What a great example.
He said, I just want it to be Vaheguru's hand that gave them. I just don't want to even recognize the faces who I gave it to.
That is beautiful. It's not us who gives it anyway. But absolutely.
Sab ko devanhar.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why Maharaj says, sometimes you'll be the beggar, sometimes you'll be the giver. Ek date, ek pekhari ji, sab tere choj vidana. Sometimes you'll be the one, the hand that is giving. Sometimes you'll be the beggar that is receiving.
Absolutely.
And there's an art to doing both.
Absolutely.
Of being the beggar and the receiver and the giver.
Vaheguru. How wondrous is the play. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But look, this is the contrast of life.
Absolutely.
There's only we only know of something called speaking because there's something called being silent.
Absolutely.
This is like the wondrous, this is the lila, the play. There's only something called giving because there's something called taking.
Absolutely.
And this is just this natural flow of life. Where are you going to, sometimes you'll be there, sometimes you'll be there. Sometimes you'll get stuck and you won't be able to do the one even when you need to do that one. Because the ego will make you stuck. So this is just a beautiful game.
Absolutely.
Jor Na Mangan, Den Na Jor. This should change everything now when you read this. So subtle, the game.
Absolutely.
I think there's so much to say about each line. You got 2 hours? just asking.
Yes, I've got 2 hours.
I'm just like, I'll tell you why I went quiet there.
Yeah.
Why I wasn't able to speak.
Okay.
I was thinking, I want to say so much more about just this line.
Yeah.
And then my head was like, no, you've got to, come on. Let's get it moving. And I think that's enough. Did you want to say anything about the requesting, the begging, the asking, and then the giving?
Yeah, I think even in the asking, there's like you say, a lot to do with humility. But it's where are you asking from? Are you actually doing a benti? Are you truly offering yourself? Are you actually submitting to the Creator?
Yeah.
But we think we're actually submitting to the actual person.
Another thing, as you were just speaking, that came to my mind was, have you heard that saying, how bad do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, take one of our vikar, take being lustful,
Yeah.
and you're struggling with it. How bad do you want to go through that survival instinct? Because it's just to keep the human species going, isn't it? It's just an instinct.
Yep, absolutely.
And that we get mixed up sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right? And then it becomes unconscious, and then it turns into lust, and then it becomes a habit of looking at people in a certain way.
Absolutely.
But how bad do you want it that you start to then mangan, beg that divine to help you work through it?
Absolutely.
Because that's a mangan as well, isn't it?
It is.
That could be a mang as well. Like for the mang to be true, because that's what you said, for it to be real, because how Maharaj is talking about it here, for it to be real, everything has to line up.
Absolutely.
And if you are truly ready, because tusi hun thak gaye ha, you're tired now.
I think that's
yeah. Then if you've gone through the process of oh wow, bal chutkyo, bandhan pare, kachu na hote paye, then kaho Nanak, ab ot har. You know, I've gone through the mill now.
Yeah.
Bal chutkyo, no strength.
Yeah.
I've, you know, bandhan pare. I'm so trapped by this lustful eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's taking me to all sorts of directions.
Yeah.
Making me do things that are so negative for my brain and for then where those what I'm doing where it could take me in life.
Yeah.
Kachuna hote pai. I'm not able to do anything about it. It seems like that.
Yeah.
Kaho Nanak ab ot har. Mangan. Yeah. Are you really asking? Are you really asking?
Exactly.
How bad do you want it?
That's the point. That's the point.
And to start any game, to start any work, even if we want to work on ourselves, if you really want to work on that, then what's required? Keeta Lorreeai Kam. वो भी एक काम में आना.
Absolutely.
It's a task.
Absolutely.
It's a task that I want to now reduce that lustful life because it's messing up my marriage, because it's whatever, right? I want to focus. I want to become more conscious. I want to, you know, that's not how I want to live anymore.
Yeah.
How do you start? Keeta Lorreeai Kam. I yearn to do this work on myself. Ever use this shabad in that context?
I don't think I have actually, no.
So har pe akhiye. If you want to start working on yourself for something so specific that you've been struggling with for so long, make deg and do a formal ardas. Say, aa gaya main Vaheguru. Har ke aaya.
Yeah.
I've lost.
Yeah.
But I'm here. And I want to I want you to help me through this task now. It's a task. Yeah. Karaj de sawar. Sort it out, bruv.
Absolutely.
That's a modern translation to Karaj de sawar, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Satguru Sat Sakhi hai. Guru Sahib, you be my witness. You be that guarantor for me. That's going to get me through this.
Right, good.
Guru Sahib says, all right, this is what you're going to need to do.
Yeah.
Santa Sang Nidan, you need to get yourself some good company. Company that always want the true benefit for you.
Yeah.
Which is to go beyond these issues. And what will they give you? They've got a treasure inside.
Yeah.
This company has.
Absolutely.
Amrit Jaki, they'll allow you to taste something much greater than that lust you were stuck in. They'll give you a nectar and you'll think, wow, that stuff was bakwas. Anna?
So do you think it's the suffering that actually leads us to?
It can. It's not like a guaranteed. Suffering just shows us something that we're struggling with.
Yeah, and we're out of alignment.
So it's not that we need it. Suffering just means, suffering is the struggle that's being exposed.
Yeah.
And it just says you still need to work on this, bruv. That's all suffering is.
Absolutely.
Anna?
Absolutely.
But if we start this journey, that divine will start to destroy, bang, banjan, will start to destroy that very thing that we've been fearing.
Yeah.
Because we almost create then a fear towards it as well, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's going to happen again. It's lust. Yeah. It's going to get me.
Absolutely.
Panjan Meherwan, das ki rakhiye. If you really want to do that work, if you really want to do it, he'll save you.
Absolutely.
Bit of patience is often needed.
Absolutely.
Because remember, it's lifetimes and lifetimes of that habit that has been embedded.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nanak har gun gaye, alakh prabh lakhiye. Yeah, they'll get you singing the praises. If you go to the right crew.
Yeah.
They'll show you a higher life.
Absolutely.
You know what? Thank you, Sangat, because, you're my Sangat here. And I know that Sangat is going to listen to this. So whoever, I've already got them in mind. Why I'm saying thank you is I've thought about this shabad in this context before. Okay. But some of the lines, the way they have revealed themselves in this conversation, I've never been able to see in that light before.
Vaheguru.
So I'm very thankful for this Sangat.
That's beautiful.
So let's go back. So Jor Na Mangan Din Jor. I think we're safe to move on from this now.
Definitely.
So we'll just do some more literal translations now.
Okay.
Jor Na Jeevan Maran hai Jor. I have no power to determine the nature of how to remain alive and die.
Yep.
It's Vaheguru has set the nature of what it takes for us to remain alive, or what it takes for us to die. Somebody spoke to me once and completely took this line out of context.
Okay.
It could have been because of the prior translation was so literal. There was no context behind it.
Okay.
What somebody said to me was that we say that taking your own life is a negative act. Yeah, and it's not going to resolve anything in the sense of it's still left things unresolved, and there's still a journey to be continued, and because of the impact and then the energy that is left behind as well. The studies have shown an average person that isn't necessarily like popular or known, just in regard to an average person, goes to work, you've got colleagues, you've got family, friends. When you take your own life, you impact about 62 people quite heavily.
Wow.
Impacted their mental well-being.
That big a figure?
62. So imagine now if somebody's popular and known and they have an influence in the world.
Yeah.
If they took their own life, that figure would be horrendous.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it has an impact negatively on their well-being.
Absolutely.
So the effect of it. And then somebody said to me, well, if it's all Vaheguru's power, and so they took it in the context of then it's preordained, then isn't it God's power that has preordained that they were going to die in that way?
Yeah.
I said, no. My heart sank. I said, no.
Yeah.
This does not mean that.
Yeah.
Let's just take that then scenario into consideration now.
definitely.
Somebody's taking their own life, just to give clarity everyone here.
Yeah.
Somebody's taking their own life. What does this line then mean in context to that? This means, so remember the words here is determine the nature of how to.
Yep.
So they were able to tap into and use the things
Yep.
that then determine death.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No God wrote that's how you're going to die. No God preordained for you to do it that way.
Yep.
But there's a nature to what causes death.
Okay.
There's multiple things. We cannot name them all.
No.
Yeah. There's multiple reasons and causes and how somebody then dies.
Yep.
Yeah? And if somebody has then used one of those methods and then they end their life, right? So no individual ego can design a way to die outside of God's hukam, God's nature of what it takes to die.
To die.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can't say that I'm gonna get a little feather and tickle my nose and that should cause death.
No, absolutely not. No.
That's not what determines death.
No.
Right?
No.
So I've not then done what it takes to die.
No.
Yeah. So then I'm not going to die.
No.
But if I do something that does determine death,
Yep.
then I've used that system to bring death.
Yep.
So it's not in my hands to design, to create what it takes to die.
To die.
But there's multiple ways of how you could do that.
To do that.
There is no external God sat there planning how you're going to do these things in your life. Because then you would also have to say that there's some form of, if that's how you think God is, there's no such thing as God like that.
Yeah.
That just doesn't exist. That God does not exist.
Yeah.
Because then we would have to also say there's an external God sat there writing, there is a pedophile that is going to rape a child.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But then we would have to say that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a very important point to clarify, actually. I think definitely.
And I could tell you, if that's your version and understanding of God, there's not going to be many people wanting to connect to that so-called God. Because he doesn't exist anyway.
No, absolutely.
So this is talking about Jeevan here. It's talking about not how you're born.
No.
It's talking about life itself.
Life itself. The Jeevan itself.
Yeah, so what it takes to remain alive, we can't, this individual illusion of ego cannot create what it takes to remain alive. It is what it is. That is divine. That is designed by that divine intelligence. What it takes to remain alive. Let me give you an example. Pani chhad do pina. Not going to eat. Not going to drink. Yeah. And so I'm not talking here. I know people can always get clever, but you could do this type of yogic practice and maybe take your. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying generally, you're not a yogi, for example. Don't eat. Don't drink. Nothing. However long it takes, I don't know what the actual stats are. I mean, not the stats. I mean, how long it takes. I don't know the figures. I don't know the days exactly how long it takes.
Okay.
But you cannot stay alive then longer than however long.
Yep.
If that's a choice you made.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because that's not what it takes then to remain alive. To remain alive then, you would have to then drink water, eat food, as one example. Okay. So it's not down to what you as a individual intellect thinks it should be.
No.
It doesn't matter what you think it should be.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how much you think you could do to change how it should be. You cannot.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
You have to do as per Vaheguru's nature what it takes to remain alive.
Yep.
So Jor Na Jeevan.
Yep.
You have to play Vaheguru's game
Okay.
to whatever it takes to remain alive.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense now?
It does. It does. It's like a universal law. Would you call it?
100%.
It's a universal law.
It is what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tried a fast, just a 21-day
Okay.
fast. Just throwing this in just for just to lighten it up a little bit. And I did it quite intuitively with no intention of how long I was going to do it for. And I got to about 21 days-ish.
No food.
No food. I drank a lot of water, I must admit. And I came to a lot of realizations in that process, but I did eventually submit to what the body was telling me. As in, like, I probably could have gone more, or so I thought in my head, but I had no preconceived idea at all. I just did it day by day. Had no agenda at all. I just thought I'm not going to eat one day, which led to 2 days, then that led to 3 days, led to a week, 14 days. Point is, ultimately, I submitted to the law, as in what I was being told, and that only at that point I thought, no, that's it now. Theek, objective reached, and I observed my mind and all these games that that goes on within you. But you come to an awareness. I must admit, very 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 good thing I kind of learned in my spiritual development. Let's just say, I'm not saying it,
and even there. Like somehow you tapped in then to a law that permitted you to remain alive for those 21 days. Was it 21?
Yeah, it was 21 days.
For those 21 days.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is there. If you then did even something little bit this way or that way, it's not determined by you then.
Yeah.
What is going to keep you alive?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And how long could that have been done for? You could not change whatever it is.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So even that, you're still within the divine laws of to remain alive.
Yes. Definitely.
You hadn't still done something that is going to bring death to you.
No. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And that's the point here. Jor Na Raaj Mal Mansoor. Here the Guru is talking about Raj being here to acquire power, and Mal meaning wealth or possessions, and Jor Na Raaj Mal Mansoor. And then this is again a very interesting one, and it's talking about how the effect of what could your mind could have of acquiring a certain level of power over people, however we want to look at that, and then having so many possessions and having so much wealth, and the way that could then cause disturbances, which is sore here within the mind. Yeah. And what Maharaj is saying here is that there's a law to even how that plays out and how that works and happens. That we cannot determine the nature of how to, and first of all, of how to acquire power.
Yeah.
And wealth. But then it's talking about how these things then cause disturbances. Yeah. So we can't then say, well, I'm going to continue being a certain way, but I'm not going to let it affect me. No, it's not how it works. You have to play Vaheguru's game for you not to be affected by these things.
Absolutely.
So whatever the components might be, I might need certain skill sets, like that leadership skill set or certain assertiveness, and then at the same time, all the qualities that add up to acquire all of that.
All of that, yeah.
And so only when all of that somebody might want to acquire power, but they haven't got all of those qualities that it takes to acquire it, so they're not going to be able to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody to even acquire wealth, it takes a certain type of mindset and all the parts and all the components to what it takes to acquire it would have to fall into place. One thing you might have a bad relationship with money.
Absolutely.
You might have some sort of negative thought about money.
Absolutely.
That you don't deserve it.
Yeah. Or even experience.
Yeah. You might feel that you don't deserve it, but you're trying to go out there and get wealth. But if that thought is, I don't deserve it, somehow or another, you'll keep pushing it away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
So if everything's not in place, you will not acquire these things.
Definitely.
Yeah, because power here doesn't necessarily mean in a negative way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Somebody could be a leader of an organization and they require that. It could be in a positive way, that power.
Absolutely.
But then they talk about Mansur. But then it's so fine in how these things can start then having a negative impact on the mind as well. If you're not conscious, these very things can tip over and start causing disturbances in the mind as well, of how you start, like Maharaj says that, बड़े जो दिसे लोग तिनको व्यापे चिंता रोग. Sometimes the bigger the person is in this world, the more responsibility that they have, and the more power that they have in this world often comes with a lot of disease, which is the disease of anxiety as well.
Absolutely.
This role and responsibility. So then Maharaj goes on to say, Jor Na Surti Gyan Vichar. This is what I mean. Each one of these is like a topic within itself.
Absolutely.
But here it's talking about the Surti. And so I'm just going to read out the translation here. I have no power to determine the nature of how to focus in meditation and acquire divine wisdom. So, whatever it takes for us to focus in a meditation, everything has to fall into place for it to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try and force it and we think, I'll do it like this.
Yeah.
Not able to do it. And you just think, okay, this time I'm going to have such a connected, I'm going to have such a deep meditative experience, to set everything up.
Yeah.
And the opposite happens. Completely disconnected. I love this kirtan or kirtani. You sit there and it's off, can't focus. Sort gyan vichar, where you want to receive that wisdom and deep contemplation to something, but it just doesn't happen.
No.
Again, it requires all the right components to be in place, what it takes. Yeah. And it takes a lot of, again, you have to lower yourself. You have to be open.
Yeah.
You can't have this comes up all the time. I spoke to somebody the other day and this person said that I'm just seeking that same experience I had a year ago.
Yeah.
I was like, but that's probably the very thing that's not allowing you to have it, because you're seeking that experience.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Be open.
You're actually trapped by that experience.
Yeah.
Instead of using that to propel you and use it as a guide, that you're being pointed in the right direction, you're seeking that experience again. And that in itself is attachment to that experience, isn't it?
Yes.
Let go of that.
That's perfect, the way you've just worded that.
Let go of that.
The more open we are to that limitless one for it to happen, and we've just got to be humble before that one to be able to connect with that one without having these set ideas of exactly how it should be and feel and what we should experience. Jor Na Jugti Chote Sansar. We have no power to determine the nature of how to escape from the entanglement of the world. Sometimes we're trying so hard, we're doing the opposite. We start gripping onto the world even harder. trying to run away from it in fear, but that the fear of it, of becoming attached, is making us drown into it even more.
True.
So it's so subtle what it takes for us to truly escape
Yeah.
from the attachments of this life and world, and to let go subtly and accept how everything is just moving in this flow of birth, life, death, the circle, the cycle, however you want to call it.
Absolutely. The way it's happening is it's kind of a poetry anyway in itself. Do you know what I mean? There's no, like we say, we've got no control. So letting go and coming into acceptance, I think, is quite important.
So we have no control over, like, for example, your body's going to age.
Definitely.
So we have no control over that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's about having that subtle, allowing it, the process. And so then you can shut sansar to escape.
Absolutely.
Jis Hath Jor kar vekha soe. The one with power in hand, Punjabi ch kehndे jide hath vich jor hai, the one that has the power.
Yeah.
Watches over the creation. There's always a stillness behind everything that is always available, just watching everything. It's always there.
Vaheguru.
Always there.
That's beautiful though. The knowing that everything's being watched.
And for a moment, when you just get overwhelmed, you can just fall into that.
Absolutely.
And you can be out of all of it within an instant.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh, that we ਕਮਲੀ ਗੇਮ ਚੱਲੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ, ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਫਸਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਹੈ ਐਵੇਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਰੋਈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ, ਕਿਤੇ ਕੀ ਹੋਈ ਜਾਂਦਾ. ਲਾਈਕ
absolutely.
ਨਾਨਕ ਉੱਤਮ ਨੀਚ ਨਾ ਕੋਏ. When they haven't used the word jor here, but again, looking at many other our respected Gursikhs and scholars that have interpreted Gurbani, saying that it's in the same context. So no one has the power to determine the nature of what it means to be high or low, meaning being closer to the light or being further from the light. Higher is when you're in that flow of divinity. And prem. And niche is when you're further away from it. So thank you, Bal Singh, for this amazing conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on this journey. This is probably one of the most difficult Baudiyan stanzas to be able to truly articulate. It truly is an experience when you just sit back and you start just watching how it all happens and be in awe of it. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.